Sometimes underestimating someone makes the entire world underestimate you in return. Flight attendant Clara was about to learn that lesson the hard way, because the man she thought was just another passenger was President Ibrahim Traoré. The plane glided smoothly through the sky, and to most, it felt like an ordinary day in the cabin. But in seat 23B, next to the window in economy class, sat a man whose quiet gaze took in every detail around him. Worn leather bag, plain clothes, calm posture. There was nothing to set him apart. Nothing except the truth. He was President Ibrahim Traoré, traveling undercover on a highly sensitive diplomatic mission. Clara was the newest flight attendant on the crew, young, attractive, and quietly judgmental. Her eyes kept drifting toward Traoré. As she rolled her cart down the aisle and stopped at his seat, she raised an eyebrow, leaned in with a smirk, and asked in a dismissive tone, "Is this really your seat, or did you get lost?" Traoré simply nodded and whispered a quiet, "Thank you." No anger, no sarcasm, just composure. But Clara didn't let up. As she placed his tray on the table, she leaned closer and muttered, "For someone from Africa, even economy seems a bit too fancy." Another passenger glanced over, sensing the tension, but no one said a word. Traoré kept his eyes on the clouds outside the window. The sky was calm, but inside a storm was quietly brewing. Why would a world leader travel in secret among ordinary passengers? And more importantly, was Clara ready for the truth she was about to face? As the plane continued its course through the sky, Clara's snide behavior stopped being random. It evolved into a cycle of growing humiliation. And strangely, President Traoré's silence only seemed to fuel her more. Maybe to her, silence meant weakness. During the meal service, Clara moved briskly down the aisle with her cart. When she reached Traoré, she cast him a sharp look and, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, said with a smug grin, "Oh no, looks like we're out. Maybe next time try your luck in business class." Traoré didn't even lift his gaze. He didn't argue. He didn't react. His calmness was unsettling. To Clara, that quiet dignity started to feel like arrogance, or worse, a silent threat. Traoré reached into his bag and pulled out a small book, gently flipping through the pages. Clara scoffed and turned away, tending to another passenger. But something inside her had shifted. Unease had begun to settle. A few passengers nearby had noticed the tension. An elderly woman sitting across the aisle offered Traoré a small, knowing smile. A slight nod. Quiet but powerful, like a silent show of respect. Traoré returned the gesture with a soft smile. He was gracious, but even grace has its limits. As the plane began its descent, passengers fastened their seat belts. Clara, meanwhile, continued casting cold glances at Traoré, wrapped in the false comfort of her assumed superiority. But that comfort was about to be shattered, because waiting on the tarmac was a secret, and Clara was about to see her own reflection for the first time through the lens of a camera. The moment the plane's wheels kissed the runway, a subtle jolt passed through the cabin. Seatbelts unbuckled, overhead compartments opened, and soft murmurs of a farewell floated through the aisles. Clara was still scanning the rows, her eyes settling once more on Traoré. A strange sense of smug satisfaction filled her chest. That quiet man who thought he was something special, she thought. But the moment those aircraft doors opened, her smugness was replaced by a numbing horror. Passengers peeking out the window gasped. Lined up along the runway, dozens of uniformed soldiers, 2 armored vehicles, and in between, a long red carpet stretching toward the aircraft. This wasn't a normal arrival. Suddenly the intercom crackled to life. The pilot's voice was calm but noticeably reverent. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. Our aircraft is carrying a very special guest. For protocol reasons, the presidential convoy will disembark him first." Clara blinked, confused. Presidential? What president? Who are they talking about? Then it happened. 4 soldiers entered the cabin in perfect sync. Their steps were deliberate. Their hands rested on their weapons. Their expressions were made of stone. Without a glance at any other passenger, they marched straight to one seat, the one right under Clara's nose. Traoré's seat. The lead soldier snapped to attention, saluted, and with commanding clarity said, "President Ibrahim Traoré, welcome. Your arrival honors our nation." Without a word, Traoré stood up. He brushed off his jacket, composed as ever. Then he turned to Clara. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His gaze alone shattered her. Then he turned to the rest of the passengers and walked calmly down the aisle. Clara stood frozen. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. A cold fire spread through her chest. Just moments ago, she had belittled him. Now, the man she mocked was the pride of a continent. And she, under the eyes of the entire world, was beginning to shrink. Not a single sound filled the cabin. The silence now weighed heavier than the engines themselves. Every eye was fixed on Ibrahim Traoré as he moved with calm, measured steps toward the exit. No one spoke. No one moved. And in that oppressive stillness, the only thing that grew louder was Clara's shame. Traoré paused midway down the aisle. Slowly he turned. His eyes met Clara's directly, calm but piercing. He gave a slight nod, then spoke. His voice was low, respectful, yet every word cut deeper than any shout. When you judge someone without knowing who they are, you reveal exactly who you are. Clara's knees buckled. Her eyes welled up, but not from anger this time. It was realization, humility. The pride that once stiffened her spine shattered into dust. The man she once mocked now stood tall, not through rank, but through presence. His words struck not just her, but the entire cabin. Outside, cameras flashed as Traoré stepped onto the red carpet. Dozens of journalists captured the moment, a quiet man of dignity, walking with no arrogance behind him and no fear before him, only honor. And Clara? She remained near the cabin door, frozen. A passenger gently offered her a tissue. She waved it away, lowered her head. Her tears fell silently, while eyes around her did not. The captain leaned down and whispered, "Perhaps now you understand. Rank isn't worn on your chest. It's carried in your stance." Clara said nothing. There were no words left. Only one haunting thought echoed in her mind. Who was that man? And how could I have been so blind? By the next day, the story had gone global. Hashtags like #Traoré flight dominated social media. Millions watched the footage, marveling not only at the president's humility, but at the quiet, devastating strength that comes from restraint. Clara was fired. The airline issued a formal apology, but the deepest lesson wasn't found in headlines. It was hidden in Clara's reflection, in the shame she now saw in the mirror. President Traoré addressed the media with just one powerful sentence. True leadership is staying calm even when you're being looked down on. That flight had become more than just a journey. That quiet moment on board didn't just humble a flight attendant, it educated the world, and one man, dressed like everyone else, changed everything, simply by the way he stood.